the media present. The Executive Committee of the Bermuda Union of Teachers have made several efforts to communicate and collaborate with the Ministry and Department of Education over the past several months. Our purpose for collaboration was to present a unified front in the face of the ongoing COVID-19 global pandemic as we collectively facilitate the business of teaching and learning for our public school students. The Ministry and Department of Education have not engaged us in collaboration as outlined in our collective bargaining agreement this school year, and have instead forged ahead with policies seemingly designed to fabricate a sense of anxiety and fear in our members that is laced with an unnecessary level of control. This will not stand. We have faithfully worked with the Ministry and Department since the onset of COVID-19 in 2020, in the midst of enduring pay cuts, intrusive testing regimens, sudden schedule shifts, untold pressures to perform at unreasonable levels, and simply outrageous media releases by the Ministry of Education that have not represented the realities of what is truly taking place in our public schools. This has become far too much to quietly accept. Our efforts to address the concerns of our 800 plus members who daily make the inner workings of teaching and learning tick have been dismissed by their employers, causing a once amicable alliance in the face of unprecedented conditions to deteriorate into numerous tense impasses. We are at a point where we feel it is prudent to act. We have requested that the Education Emergency Measures Committee, the EEMC, be reconvened urgently, and that the current rollout of the massively botched January return to school be rethought and aligned with the expert advice of those we have put in place to do just that, advise. The many missteps on the part of the Ministry of Education are far too numerous during a time when effective, proactive leadership is most vital. The most important being their failure to convene the EEMC, where all stakeholders could have collaboratively and effectively planned to avoid the situation we are currently facing. Instead of the Ministry and Department of Education acknowledging the many flaws with their return to school plan, or lack thereof, teachers are now being asked to conform to irrational directives, some that go against the government's national advice, and are being threatened of having their pay docked for reasonable actions. Enough is enough. The bullying, demonizing, and finger pointing must stop immediately if we are to successfully navigate our way through this current state of affairs. Teachers are not the villains of this narrative, and no one should be feeling bullied, threatened, or penalized as a result of unreasonable requests that do nothing to aid in solving the crisis we are currently facing. And as a matter of fact, it will not be tolerated. Our teachers are hardworking members of this community who are charged with going into what is categorized as a medium risk environment daily, and they do so for the love of this noble profession, and most importantly, for their students. A school building is a place that receives contact from every corner of our community. Teachers are charged with caring for all students, and therefore, all families in our country. When we request a staggered return to school or a rescheduling of the testing regime, or to just simply sit down at the table with those who have the decision-making power, it is not to make anything more convenient for us. It is to protect our entire community during this health crisis. The outrage that comes with school not starting in person on time is nothing next to the outrage we hear if starting school too early directly led to another spike of this virus. What is so difficult to understand about this? We must do better. Almost 2 years of facing this virus, 2 years worth of data points, 2 years worth of last-minute decisions, 2 years worth of unnecessary inconveniences to our teachers, students, parents, and wider community. It has been 2 years. We really should have it together by now. for most situations. We've experienced enough scenarios to be able to collaboratively plan adequately in a timely fashion for these times that we are living in. Until this pandemic is a distant memory, the EEMC must function. The ministry must collaborate with all stakeholders, this union included. The Department of Education must listen more than what they have recently demonstrated their willingness to. And everyone who has decision-making power must respect, consider, and act on the advice of those who are most equipped to give it. Bermuda, if we truly mean we are in this together, everyone, employers included, must collectively do their part and demonstrate a level of understanding, rationality, flexibility, and most importantly, make it make sense.
That concludes the end of the written statement. We will now entertain questions from the media.
Thank you so much for your comments, Jocelyn Patterson from Bermuda Broadcasting. You basically summarized, but what's the teacher and staff morale like at this stage?
Thank you for that question, Jasmine.
I'm sorry, can we bring
Thank you for that question, Jasmine. Teacher morale is very low. Morale has been low for quite some time. We have explained this to our employers, our supposed to be collaborators. We have shared the angst, the fear of not just the pandemic, but usual concerns with teaching and learning, lack of resources, not enough materials, just the day-to-day struggles of teaching in a 21st century classroom with the resources of 30 years ago. But currently in the pandemic, the morale is the lowest it's ever been. Teachers experience bullying tactics, they experience coercion, and what we see right now is the farthest that it's ever been, demanding teachers to test on January 1st, a public holiday, and then alluding to penalization for not going on January 1st. It's going quite far, and morale is very low.
Was there any reason given why there hasn't been any open communication or collaboration?
Let me go back, because collaboration, we have been, since the beginning of the pandemic, we were collaborating quite well with the Department of Education. We were meeting weekly with the Minister, the PS, and the Commissioner of Education. For some reason this year, that has ceased. We show up to meetings, sometimes they cancel them last minute, other times the people who have the power to make decisions do not come, and so we do not receive answers. And so that's just on a day-to-day, those are just regular concerns that we have within the system. But when it came to pre-return, we have been actively sending information, phoning the minister, calling the department, trying to have them come to the table so we can get this resolved. This was an issue in September, the return to school, and we wanted to ensure that it didn't happen again, and unfortunately it is.
I'm torn between these two questions, but I suppose, do you know how many staff may have been threatened, so to speak, about having their pay docked for not testing in time?
That I cannot confirm the numbers, but what I can tell you is that the directors from the commissioner's office are they're not the same all across the board. Some staff receive threatening of pay docks. Some staff receive that they will be confirmed as absent, even though they're showing up to their buildings, even though they are performing remote learning. They are showing up for their students, teaching and learning during the pandemic, and being told by their supervisors that they will be considered absent. So the number, we don't have that number at present because we only can go on what calls or what emails we get, whether it's from our reps or from our members. But there is a large number of teachers currently who are working, but according to the Ministry of Education, they're absent.
Owen Johnson Barnes with the Royal Gazette. Is there any discussion about potential of industrial action at this point, given the current situation facing the island's teachers?
Well, thank you for that, but at this time, we haven't been able to come together and have a general membership meeting considering where we are. And until we are able to meet as a entire membership, I cannot, I can't foreshadow any possible industrial action.
However,
I like
it
to.
isn't, however, it is important to note, however, with regards to that question, that members have actually called the office asking for a general membership meeting. And we've actually had to go through the point of calming them down, having them understand, because of where we are in this pandemic, that having a general membership meeting at this time is very difficult.
And just to add to that, I just wanted to be very clear that our members want to teach
Yes.
our children. Our members want to be able to work. Our members want to be able to fulfill their passion and their job that they've been called to do. But being able to do that with a clear conscience, having the threats of our employers behind us, and this is just one issue right now. This is the straw that's breaking the camel's back at this point. These are issues that have been ongoing for this entire school year that have not been addressed. Members are being treated in a way that's quite frankly unacceptable. And we're to the point of enough is enough. We're demanding respect as professionals and to be treated as such. And the same flexibility that the department and the Ministry of Education are requesting of our members, we are demanding that from our employers. And that is the bottom line. No teacher wants to engage in any industrial action at all, but we will not tolerate the behavior of our employers that they are directing towards our members.
Now, we have heard from some parents who have got their children PCR tests, and then found out that their school is not reopening, so they have to retest. I was wondering if, first of all, what's the BUT's reaction to that? Number two, have teachers been put in the same position? Have teachers who've already gotten a PCR test being told now you have to do it again? You have to get it rescheduled again, potentially just kicking the can further down the road?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have heard of that happening because we have to remember that our teachers are parents as well. And so many of our teachers are parents of children within the system. And it is unfortunate because we foresaw this. And the advice that was given, not only from us, but there was also advice from principals, school leaders. There was advice from other entities to not open in this way and also to not demand PCR testing. If you look at other jurisdictions around the world, they have antigen testing. The private schools are using antigen testing. Antigen testing is used to enter and exit the country. And so this push to use PCR testing when it is not reasonable because it has overwhelmed the testing capacity on Bermuda, and that was something that was told ahead of time. What does it do for teaching and learning? One of the suggestions we made was to have a buffer week. And so to ensure that everyone can be tested in time and to ensure that the capacity of the lab wasn't overrun, but that was something that was not adhered to, and look where we are. So I do not have any members who are currently calling in being told that, but I have heard that parents are being told that, and it's quite unfortunate.
And of course, during all of this, teachers have been asked to work. They've been asked to put together these work packages for their students. Can you tell me if any teachers have actually had their pay withheld and still worked?
So I cannot confirm if anyone has had their pay withheld because the pay is at the end of the month. However, there have been directives, there have been written communication from principals that your pay will be deducted. And so it's one of two things happening. You're either being told that you're absent from work, or, like you said, you're completing these pay packets because you're at home, but then you're being told that you won't be paid. And so, unfortunately, we are asking the powers that be, the ministry, the government, to not allow the Department of Education to act this way. Because if members are working, if teachers are working, they're facilitating teaching and learning, they deserve to be paid.
Stefano Zenda from DNN. Has the Ministry of Education so far given any rationale for treating the Bermuda Union teachers this way so far?
No, they have not given any rationale to not collaborating with us or to not coming to the table. They did give rationale for not convening an EEMC meeting, and that was that the Minister of Education and important stakeholders were on vacation until later this month. And so that was one of the reasons why they didn't convene the EEMC. However, again, that is reactive because because to be proactive would have been convening the EMC in the middle or at the beginning of December when we first got notices of this new strain. The EMC has not been convened since before the start of the school year in August.
And in addition to that, I'd like to add, we do meet, or we are supposed to meet with the Department of Education on a monthly basis via our JCC meeting. Our initial plan was to have discussions in our November meeting to prepare, for lack of a better word, for what may happen, especially looking at the trend of the virus. That meeting was canceled without a rescheduled date. We did convene for our December meeting, and as was stated earlier, the relevant person to make decisions did not show up to that meeting. And again, our goal at that meeting was we want to be able to collaborate. Let's be proactive. We knew at this time that this new variant was a cause of concern and that the numbers were rising. Again, being proactive, but no response as to why there's a lack of effort to collaborate effectively.
So what, if an EMC is indeed called, what would that look like within the public school system?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
If an EMC is called, what would that look like within the public school system?
Well, basically, the EMC is a combination of stakeholders who all make decisions regarding education, specifically for COVID at this time. So all unions that represent all employees within the public school system are part of that. We have members and representatives from the Department of Education, from the Ministry of Education, from Department of Health. Every person or every avenue that can provide input, insight, advice is a part of that team. So if we took the opportunity to come together to collaborate and hear from all of the stakeholders what their thoughts are and how does it impact schools and what are the possibilities and how can we properly prepare, what is going to be plan B if plan A doesn't pan out, we can then go back and communicate to all of our stakeholders what this may look like if X, Y, and Z happens. So basically, it would have provided an opportunity for us to have proper planning for the betterment of the public education system right now, because we can see where we are today.
And if you guys could deliver any message to parents of students within the public school system at this point, what would you like to say?
Our public school teachers have to be commended, and that's the only thing that I can say at this point, because with every directive, whether it be rational or irrational, everything that is asked of our teachers, even the things that have not had the foresight from the Ministry of Department to do, our school leaders and our teachers have come together to make things work in their buildings with what they have. They go over and beyond on a daily basis, especially during this pandemic when we have lack of supplies and support to execute the many demands that come from the Department of Education. So to our educators, I say continue to be strong, continue to be persistent, and continue to deliver the professionalism that you have been delivering to our students and our families. To our students, know that your teachers, they care about you and they're anxious to be able to get back in the classroom with you. And to our parents, we're just going to ask for your patience while the powers that be devise a plan that we all can understand and one that makes sense for everyone. And we're just asking for everyone to just collaborate and be able to work together. Okay. Are there any other questions? I don't mind entertaining one additional question from members of the media if they have.
I suppose, what's the likelihood of you calling a general meeting? Discuss any further action?
Here's our hope, Jasmine, and I'll answer that. Here's the hope. The hope is that there is someone who can intervene to address the concerns that are real. And these are not the concerns of just the teachers in the system. This is the crisis that we're in right now. This is the concerns of the community. And so we're asking for level-headed, sound guidance as a community to be able to assist us in this time that we're in. We have, I'm sure we're all aware of the current or the recent developments where the advisor, Dr. Karika Weldon, has resigned, and we are all well aware of the advice that she gave ahead of time and the advice that she is currently giving. So if we empower people and we put people in place to advise and do such things as that to make sure that the community is kept safe, one has to wonder, why are we not following the advice? Still, to this day, we have to collaborate. We have to come together. And that's what we're calling for. We're calling for something sound and ultimately just something that makes sense for everyone, for the betterment of our community.
Do you have any idea how many teachers right now are in quarantine, otherwise physically unable to attend work right now because of this current outbreak? Not perhaps numbers, but a percentage.
Unfortunately, at this time, we do not have that information. The Department of Education would have that information, depending on school leaders. But what I could tell you is that there are a number of teachers and students who are testing positive. And part of that was from the advice of Dr. Karika Weldon of testing teachers and staff and students on January 1st was possibly too soon to catch any positives from the Christmas break. And so it's unfortunate that the Department of Education continues to miss the opportunity to collaborate, but not only that, but to listen to the advice of stakeholders that are given. Because we are currently, I don't know about you guys, but school not being able to open, we're in a crisis. This is a national crisis that we are currently in a pandemic, and school is not able to open, and there is no plan from the Department of Education. School leaders receive notices at 6 and 7 p.m. in the evening to say your school is opening tomorrow, or this class will open tomorrow, and then it's given to parents. It's unacceptable. This week, teaching and learning is not happening for all students, and that is because of the Department of Education did not listen to the advice of stakeholders and failed to collaborate.
Alrighty, well, I'd like to thank the members of the media for being present at today's press conference. I'd also like to thank and acknowledge our General Secretary, Brother Anthony Wolf, and also our General Secretary Designate, Brother Dante Cooper. And also, in closing again, just encourage everyone to do what we can, practice good hygiene, social distancing, and let's all be responsible as a community as we continue to face this COVID-19 pandemic. Have a blessed evening, everyone.